Okay, I'm gonna be real here and say that there's a few videos in my backlog. By that I mean the three of them require other people, and yes, one is a possible co-op. Like the first co-op on my channel. Who knows if they'll ever get released? Both are in the scripting phase, and there's only one that's in the editing phase. But other than that, I'm going to say that you should treat this like a cookie. A video that I'll make for a week, upload it, and call it a day. So Neko Koda, someone who isn't new to this channel, however, this is the first video where I debunk a video they made rather than defend one. So Koda made a video about Omnia, who's an art commentator, who made a video about racist topics surrounding the art community. Now before anyone asks, yes, this video does have to do with racism and some bit of transphobia. Now for anybody who's gonna ask, I'm Mexican. My parents were born at Zacatecas in Mexico, and I was born in America. Funny Max story, I know. And I go by they, them, and properly identify as a gender, which is in the trans spectrum. Thank you very much. Anyways, I'm skipping the intro because I don't really care about it, not gonna lie.
With that being said, I think it's important that if you are part of the 80% of artists who are white, to have a seat and get comfortable, because it's your turn to listen and allow black artists to speak this time. It is not the job of white folks to decide what is or is not racist, and it is not their place to decide whether or not issues in the community pertaining to black artists are harmful. Black artists can speak on their own behalf. Please hold your comments till the end.
One comment. Given how the first 4 minutes are you saying the art community is predominantly white, wouldn't you want white people in these spaces to speak up more about racism and things they see as racist? I mean, obviously your experience as a black person is going to give you more insight and a different experience that white people just won't have, but more people calling out racism is a good thing. I can't tell you how difficult it is to speak up as a trans person when I'm in a group of cis people and they're talking about how respecting pronouns is stupid. The less people that speak out about these issues, the harder it is for these marginalized groups to speak out.
But that's not Omnia's issue here. She's not saying that she doesn't want any white person in any racial spaces, but rather have white people not be the opposition to say what is and isn't racist, and let people of color be the ones to argue. If she wanted white people to not say anything ever, yeah, that would be a problem because that's gatekeeping and doesn't help white people get educated on such a broad topic as racism. But that's not what she said, end of story.
Obviously, with a more homogeneous population and less representation, diversity, and inclusion in the art world, there will be more than a couple racist oopsies that occur over time. You know, just a couple. And it's no doubt that some white artists fail to recognize what a caricature even is. Like, it's okay to admit that you're not able to decipher what is racist and what isn't, because you're white. You're not the butt end of the joke. Here's a golden example. Crypto Art, a white artist, claimed that another artist, or CD Art, was drawing racist caricatures in her video titled "The Worst Tumblr Artist Ever."
Ghostbusters. Now, I want you guys to look at this image. Look at it really hard. Squint your fucking eyes till they bleed looking at this image. And I want you, in your mind brain, to focus on what you think the issue here is. If you stated that you literally cannot tell if this image was made with racist motivations towards Leslie Jones, then you are absolutely right. The press surrounding this movie was also just McFreaking terrible. It got to the point where people were saying the worst things imaginable to her and about her. So the fact that she is drawn in this way and is the only character in this image shown to have fucking lip, it feels purposeful and in a not so great way. It feels like it was done in malice.
Now, this is a great example of a white artist claiming to know what is and what isn't racist when the majority of the black folks who saw artwork saw little to no issues with it.
But does that make it not racist? No, that fact alone doesn't make it not racist. I'll fully agree that Shannon does a poor job explaining why it is racist to begin with, but just because a bunch of black people who saw it weren't offended, that doesn't make it not racist. Let's take the trans community, for example. There's a lot of trans folks out there that agree with Blair White, despite the fact she's gone on record saying some hella transphobic shit, and even gone as far as to lie about trans folk to push a narrative. Now, is the fact a lot of trans folks like her make her not transphobic? No, of course not. The argument shouldn't be who said what or who agreed with what, it should be, is this correct, why or why not?
Okay, but like, if you let her finish, she goes on to say the opposite of, if people didn't agree that it was, then it isn't. And more of, yeah, no, here's some base-ass elaboration as to how it isn't.
Take my favorite YouTuber of all time, for example, Mute Chan, who is a fellow black artist. In her video titled "My Issue with Creepshow Art" from a subscriber, Mute responds with,
the Mute Chan person she shows goes on to basically show how it's not racist by saying that if it was, then where the hell is the negative portrayal of Patty from Ghostbusters?
In order for this to be deemed racist, I think there would have to be some kind of negative portrayal in the artwork, or something that portrays the people drawn in a negative light.
Talks about how exaggerated art styles aren't always racist, and showing how the Ghostbusters artwork proves to be the case.
I'll put a picture so you can see for yourselves, but to me, yes, the proportions are exaggerated, but I wouldn't consider these to be racist depictions of black people. If anything, I think they're stylized. I think that just exaggerating or stylizing features isn't inherently racist.
To show someone else's opinion, that also proves that the artwork isn't racist.
Even if you scroll down in the comments of the Tumblr artist video, you'll see top comments that feel the same way I do. Now one of these comments, only from a few weeks ago, sums up my thoughts perfectly. Hey, I said this somewhere else, but I thought I'd post this for you to see. I'm a black woman, and I don't think the Leslie Jones, Anthony Mackie, Donald Glover, or even the Nicki Minaj/Taylor drawings were that bad. I actually like the Ghostbusters one. This video is slightly uncomfortable because your reasoning keeps going to the large lips and wide noses of African/African American people, but, like, those are part of our features. And I think our lips and noses are cute/beautiful, and can be emphasized in stylized drawings. I'm not a huge fan of Roy's art, Roy being the artist's name, by any stretch, but I don't think every one of their drawings is offensive. The Captain America and Finn drawings are jarring, I agree, but their other stuff didn't bother me that much. Your heart is in the right place, but I think it'd be helpful if you ask these groups of people who are the subject matter of these artworks what their views are, and what they think factors into an art piece being an offensive caricature versus a stylized representation.
And I don't know anything else Mew said in the video, because I couldn't find it, so I assumed they took it down, but that's irrelevant. Now, I have a question, Koda. If Omnia genuinely believes that if somebody doesn't agree that a certain person is racist, why would Omnia do this then?
Take my favorite YouTuber of all time, for example, Mute Chan, who is a fellow black artist. In her video titled My Issue with Creepshow Art from a subscriber, Mute responds with,
Omnia proceeds to play a clip from another person's video where they actually explain why they don't find the art piece offensive. I think the way this person actually explained why they didn't see it as offensive should be the way we go with these discussions. The identity of the person should be second to their actual explanation. Again, if someone tried using their experience to explain why an art piece was or wasn't offensive, that would be fine. But just saying I'm X race and I don't find this offensive isn't a compelling argument.
So you did know about this, but still keep your last interjection regardless. I mean, not to say that it wasn't entirely incorrect, but the fact that even Omnia agrees with you and shows it in her video just comes across like you didn't pay attention to what she said. Like, you're not wrong. You should explain how it isn't racist, but seriously, dude.
Logistically, I find it even more disheartening to see that Creepshow Art's video boasts 1.2 million views, while Mute Chan's video only has about 135,000 views.
Couldn't be because of the size of their audience, and honestly, given Mute Chan has about 3k subs, 100k views is a lot and really good.
Yes, but the problem here is that Mute Chan doesn't surpass Shannon's video, even though Shannon's video, at least through Omnia, is how it's calling something racist when it isn't. And an actual person of color who argues how it isn't racist gets less amount of views than Shannon. I understand that Mute having a pretty large audience of 3,000 people is nice, but also that isn't relevant at all, nor does it contribute to anything. Sorry.
Why are we allowing white artists to claim to know what is and what isn't racist, while black artists get significantly less exposure and less of a voice?
Okay, let's take this point by point. Why are we allowing white people to say what is and isn't racist? Because while white people may not be able to fully experience the life of a black person, they can try their best to listen and understand and try to use that knowledge to speak up for black folk, especially when you're a white woman with a large audience like Shannon. Like, I'm white, but I can still explain why saying the N-word is racist. And personally speaking, I love seeing large cisgender creators like Vosh call out transphobia. He can't fully know the experiences of a trans person, however, he can use the knowledge he has to try and use his platform to call out transphobia and try to educate other cis folk who may not be willing to listen to trans folk because of transphobia.
Okay, you're really not letting her speak, because after that sentence she goes on to say that people of color themselves can't be listened to more than someone else that's white. Like, yes, you can explain that, but when more people are listening to you more than a person of color, it's pretty cringe. I'm not saying that you made this video out of spite, but rather not listening correctly as to what Omnia is trying to get across, Koda.
2. While black artists get less exposure and less of a voice, Shannon just has a bigger platform, and I think that given Mute Chan is small, and the fact they got that many views is showing a positive trend of black people's voices being listened to.
Yes, but it rivals against the person they're responding to who's white and trying to act as if this was actually racist when it objectively isn't. But it rivals over 1 million views. That's the fucking problem. And yes, like, it's nice for somebody to have that much, but it also hurts when you make a video like that.
Also, why is it a bad thing for bigger white creators to try and speak up against racism when they see it?
It's not. The problem that hurts is how Shannon is basically calling someone racist when it isn't. It's not bad for white people to spread other people of color's voices and talk about racial topics. The problem is how they do it.
These are issues directly impacting us, and black artists have every right to talk about whether or not an artwork or a character is or is not racist to them because it impacts them.
Who said you couldn't argue that? Again, I fully support anyone talking about these issues as long as they can actually substantiate their points.
Okay, that's true. Nobody can gatekeep people of color from talking about racism. That's dumb. But that's also not the problem here, because it isn't about people who are gatekeeping, but rather are getting shunned out by the people like Shannon or any other white person who speaks about such a topic like racism in a genuinely distasteful manner.
Like, if you're gonna trust and listen to black people based on their race, are you then gonna listen to black anti-black racists?
Do you agree with me that there's no such thing as racism, sexism, homophobism, Islamophobism, deadbeatism, or white supremacism? Do you agree with me that those things don't exist? It just has everything to do with the lack of character?
I mean, it can have to do with lack of character and both exist at the same time.
Do you agree with me that those things
No, of
do
course,
not
those
exist?
things absolutely exist in the world.
You believe racism exists?
Are their perspective of what is and isn't racist just as valid as a white person who's anti-racist?
That's actually a pretty nice question to such a topic. Like, it is something I don't hear about a lot. But here's my take. If there are people like this dude you showed who don't believe racism is a thing, I'm going to let you know on this that those kinds of people, especially if they're a person of color, always get shunned out for a good reason. They're racist, regardless if they're a person of color. Like, I remember you mentioned Blair White, somebody who is openly transphobic and has very transphobic beliefs, but there's a reason why she gets ignored by a bunch of other trans people. It's the same thing as people of color who don't believe racism is a thing or have racist beliefs. Anyway, she ends off with a final point, and then after that her final thoughts, which I don't care about as much, so I'll just say this. There's nothing wrong for a white person with a large audience to speak about such topics like racism unless they can share other people of color's viewpoints or something along those lines. However, I think the main problem here is how much you show you don't listen to Omnia and argue the opposite of what she's actually saying. You had some good intentions with the video, and almost nothing you said, unless you were covering a completely different video, you'd be right. But now I'm going to work on my other shit, so thank you for watching. I hope y'all had a great day. And that is fucking it. I don't fucking know. Goodbye. I don't know. I'm recording all of this, and I just genuinely thought how it ended off the script, and me recording it is so awkward.